Jacob Boger had severe headaches, watery eyes, and felt fatigued all the time. MRI tests showed a tumor in his nasal cavity behind his eyes. A subsequent biopsy revealed even more: cancer.
I had ignored the symptoms for so long that the cancer had progressed through the first stage, the second stage, and the third stage. And by the time we did the biopsy, I was in a fourth stage, given less than a 10% chance to live. The cancer was eating a hole through my skull and headed towards the brain.
Jacob needed immediate chemo and radiation. His doctor told him about the possible side effects.
It's going to make you sterile. Your saliva glands are going to be destroyed. Your taste buds are going to be destroyed. The radiation that's going to go with this treatment is going to totally destroy your hair follicles. You'll never have hair on the sides of your head again.
Jessica was Jacob's girlfriend at the time.
And I remember that night I was driving him home from a restaurant, and he told me, he said, the doctors told me that I'm not going to be able to have children. And I remember that moment, and a tear rolled down his cheek in the car with me.
The tumor was 4 inches in diameter. Jacob started his treatments immediately. His doctor said he would live only 5 more years.
He said that for the 5 years that I would be battling the cancer, even if it went into remission, that the level that it's at, the stage 4 that it's at, and the aggressiveness that it's at, that it's going to come back. One of the warning signs that he gave me is that if I ever wake up or through the day have cerebral fluid coming out of my nose, which was a clear, salty kind of fluid, he said, just rush to the hospital, but you're done at that point.
And then it happened, just as his oncologist had warned him.
One night, in the middle of the night, I woke up because there was fluid on my lips, and I kind of tasted it, and it was that salty solution, and I immediately remembered that the doctor said, if you ever have that happen, you're going to the hospital immediately. Rush to the hospital.
The discharge stopped. Jacob went to the hospital and continued his treatments.
So I did 3 months of chemotherapy, then I went into a radiation treatment. And after about 2 weeks of that, I'm deteriorating. My body's deteriorating. Over a course of 2 months, I lost 60 pounds. And my faith is being tried at that point.
Jacob was a Christian and believed God would heal him.
I was constantly listening to teaching on healing. I was constantly in my Bible, and I was in prayer. And I would tell God, God, your word says that by his stripes, I am healed. And so I believe your word. You tell me to stop taking these treatments, I'll stop taking the treatments because my faith is in your word.
Jacob says that's exactly what happened.
I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and just as clearly as I'm speaking to you right now, I heard God tell me, it's over, it's finished, it's done. Stop taking the treatments. And the peace of God was on me, and I said, God, you told me to do it, so that's exactly what I'm going to do.
For a moment, I thought, oh, wow, that's a big deal. But then it was like I always went back to, I know him. I know his relationship with God is the real deal. I know that he knows how to hear from God, and I trusted in him that he could hear from God. I trusted in his faith in God.
But that day I walked in, I told him, Doctor, I'm done. And he treated me with respect, and I appreciated that. And I said, yes, sir. He said, will you go get me one more MRI? I said, I will. So I went and got the MRI that day. He scheduled it that day. He wasn't kidding around. 3 days later, I go back into his office, and he puts the films up on the board and says, this is where the tumor was, this is the aggression, this is how big it is, and this is the new film, and there's no tumor. He said, your tumor vanished. Medically speaking, these cannot be the same person. Not unlikely, it's not very probable, they absolutely cannot be the same person. There was no scar tissue, the bone had been replaced, all fresh bone, no scar tissue there. There was absolutely no evidence that cancer had ever been in my body. He said, nothing we did could have caused this. We don't make tumors vanish. The bone that had eroded away has been replaced. Looks like you got your miracle. I said, yes, sir, I got my miracle.
Something wonderful has happened. There's no question. Something wonderful happened on an MRI. It had a spectacular response.
The tumor and the cancer were completely gone, and Jacob was on the mend.
It took about 6 months. My weight gained back, my hair grew back, my saliva started flowing again, and also during that time, my relationship with now my wife Jessica was flourishing as well. And I asked her to be my wife 6 months after I stopped taking the treatments. And remember, they told me that I wasn't going to be able to have any babies. And my wife knew that going into it, and we got married. But now I've got 3 perfect little boys, a 6-year-old Roman, a 3-year-old Judah, and a 1-year-old Justice, and they're doing just fine. Not bad for not being able to have babies.
I just knew that God was a miracle-working God. If He had saved Jacob from 4th-stage cancer to live and to be strong and for us to have a life together, that He would most definitely give us the desires of our heart, which was to have a family. So when I look at Roman, Judah, and Justice, I think miracle.
This isn't a story about Jacob Boger getting healed. This is a love story. God loves humanity so much that He wants to heal them, He wants to restore them, He wants them free from depression, free from addiction, free from sickness and disease. Prayer is very powerful. I mean, when you have a relationship with the CEO of the universe, you know, you can get some things done.